We've recently picked up some brand new details about the optional house companions and their quests, which you'll be able to complete in Hogwarts Legacy. So by the end of this video, you'll have a better idea of what this in-game mechanic is all about and what's been officially shared with us so far. But let's first discuss what these companion quests are, because as confirmed by the community manager Chandler Wood, we'll be able to make friends with some students in Hogwarts who will then go on to become our companions that can assist us during the main storyline, as well as fight alongside us in combat and outside of it. Now, we're starting this game as a 5th year, which is still left purposefully ambiguous as to why that is, but what is clear is we'll need to catch up and learn a lot of spells to get us back up to that 5th year level, and that's one of the benefits of befriending and completing these optional companion storylines, because we don't have to complete them if we don't want to, but if we decide to do so, they'll teach us some new spells, as well as presumably build on the already established mechanics in the game. Now at present, we have 3 companion stories confirmed, that being Sebastian Sallow of Slytherin, Natsai Onai of Gryffindor, and Poppy Sweeting of Hufflepuff. And I'm going to go into detail of each one in just a moment, because you may already be aware that we're missing a Ravenclaw house companion, which is yet to be announced at the time of making this video for you, but that's entirely intentional because I reckon whoever it is very important to the main storyline, and I don't think we'll be restricted to just 4 main house companions in the game. And let me explain why I think that is the case, because in the State of Play trailer, we're told that we'll meet a lot of students that we can befriend and interact with in the common rooms, corridors, and regular gathering areas. And if we combine that with the game file reference of Sebastian and Solomon fighting in the Autodesk and Avalanche developer presentation at 31 minutes in, and I think this red-headed character may be another companion we'll have the option to befriend, who I believe is called Solomon for the reasons we've just discussed, and also happens to be a Weasley, as Chandler Wood also mentioned in a PlayStation blog post back in March that we may come across a Weasley or 2, that being plural and meaning more than one, of course. And that lines up really nicely because in that same Autodesk presentation, it was presumed that we've already come across Professor Weasley, as the motion capture actress was named as such, and matches up really nicely in terms of visuals with the teacher that we see in the State of Play trailer. Now, with that in mind, this confirms to me that we'll have several more students that we can befriend apart from the 3 main protagonists officially named so far, who will be able to take with us on quests, because that red-headed character is also shown a few more times in the trailer, as well as being in some official promotional artwork. So I'm inclined to believe that he has more importance than your standard run-of-the-mill NPC in this game due to the amount of watch time he's accrued so far. So this has got me thinking out of the box here. Perhaps the companion quests from each house are the handcrafted stories that are somewhat scripted into the main story, but are optional to complete, as noted by Chandler Wood on Twitter. So they may pop up on our map at predetermined times, depending upon our own house choice and how far we've progressed through the main story. So for example, if we're in Slytherin house, Sebastian's quest will appear earlier for us in game than perhaps Natsai Onai's would, due to house affiliation, she of course being a Gryffindor. But in addition to those quests, there will also be several other characters we can befriend in game that have specific bonuses that can help us out in combat. So for example, again, Solomon, who we just discussed, looks like a brash and bold Gryffindor who likes a Royal Rumble when it comes to dueling. So by having him on our side, he could be beneficial in terms of combat gameplay, as he'll be up for the challenge against Dark Wizards if we choose to have him following us around during the game. And if this is your first time playing an open world RPG game before, having companions isn't an unusual mechanic at all. We've seen them included in several titles similar to this genre of game, and they allow you to pick companions that complement your preferred style of gameplay, making it a more enjoyable experience. And that brings me nicely onto these primary house companion quest lines, because if we do decide to complete these optional storylines, what benefits will we get for doing so as players in this game? Well, thanks to the official teaser from the Hogwarts Legacy Twitter account, we know that Sebastian is a charming and extroverted boy whose twin sister Anne, who I believe is this person from the trailer by the way, due to their visual similarities, suffers from a mysterious and debilitating curse. The thing is though, Sebastian is convinced that her last hope for a cure lies in the dark arts, and he is determined to find it. Now this is where the dark arts trailer comes into play, as it's a visual showcase of this specific quest line where we're believed to be heading through one of Salazar Slytherin's hidden underground dungeons, as Sebastian says this in the trailer.
The more we know about Salazar Slytherin and the dark arts, the better prepared we'll be.
which I think is a direct reference to Salazar's dungeon, of course, but also the overarching main storyline questline, where I think the game will end in some sort of Wizarding World Battle of Hogwarts scene, as noted by Avalanche in the Autodesk presentation, but enthusiastic puzzle piecing from me there. But this trailer is really important as a pretense on what other companion questlines will be like, in my opinion, as we've had our first look at that dialogue option, where we can choose what we want to do and how we want to play, that being whether we want to cast an unforgivable torture curse against each other, but more more importantly, Chandler has confirmed that even if you undertake Sebastian's questline, you don't have to engage in the dark arts if you don't want to. So it seems like these questlines are optional, but within the quest itself, there's also more options there depending upon how we'd like to play via these dialogue choices, which adds even more depth to the game, and that's really great to hear. However, I do want to bring this to your attention though, the dude hanging out in the corner of the screen here, because it's not just us and Seb waltzing through Salazar Slytherin's dark arts man cave. There seems to be another companion coming along for the ride, with Chandler Wood replying to Hogwarts Legacy News on Twitter with that very sus eyes emoji about this character in question, followed with another comment saying, "Another unknown person? Seems ominous." And I think this backs up our thinking that perhaps there's more than just these 4 house companions we can take with us in this game. Now, as for Seb rummaging around in the restricted section of the library looking for dark arts books, as well as seeking out dark magic, it's clear he thinks this is the route to take to save his sister Anne from what I believe is the maledictus blood curse that is hereditary in the Wizarding World and incurable. Nagini and Draco Malfoy's wife, Astoria Malfoy, both being prominent examples of what happens when this curse takes hold of you, ultimately resulting in a permanent beast form or, sadly, death. And we can also see Seb dueling alongside us in combat here against other Hogwarts students, as well as this scene which looks like underground caverns in Gringotts, confirming to me that he can join us throughout the main story as well as fight alongside us in some just generic combat. And if you're enjoying the video so far, please do leave a very swift like down below. It really does help me out on YouTube, so thank you very much. And while you're down there, I'm also running a Hogwarts Legacy game giveaway. You just need to be a subscriber of the channel to enter, and the link is in the pinned comment. So good luck. Now let's talk about our Gryffindor companion, Natsai Onai, who is described as being quick-witted and has a need to seek justice. She grew up in Africa, where she attended Ouagadougou, and I believe that's the correct phonetical pronunciation, but apologies if it's not there. But that is the largest wizarding school in the world comparatively to the other 11. She subsequently moved across the pond to Scotland with her mother, who has become the divination professor, who we can presumably say is this witch here from the State of Play trailer. And a bit of interesting info here, the wand is a European invention, with many students at Ouagadougou preferring to cast spells by pointing their finger, which hints at the possibility of us perhaps learning this skill off Natsai, as we've seen wandless magic already showcased so far in the State of Play trailer with Ranrock, so we know the animations are potentially in the works there from the dev team. Additionally, we've seen from the Autodesk presentation that we're on what is presumed to be Natsai's companion quest, where we look to be attempting to save the Hippogriff Highwing, which we can hear named here in this scene.
Highwing. Do you know that Hippogriff?
And we can only assume that Highwing has been captured by poachers, and due to our previous knowledge of the Hippogriff, I imagine we've come across him during our Beast class. Now, even more interestingly, Chandler Wood did confirm on Twitter that the Hippogriff mount becomes available in-game following a certain quest, where the Onyx Hippogriff mount, which is a pre-order cosmetic skin by the way, will be available to use once the ability to ride the Hippogriff mount is unlocked in-game. And I think this quest here is exactly what Chandler was talking about, and we already know that we'll be able to fly a broom in Hogwarts by undertaking the Brooms class for traveling around the game, but it would make sense to me that if we completed Natsai's companion quest, saved Highwing from these poachers and gave them the justice that they deserved, we'd pick up the ability to fly magical creatures by escaping with Highwing and Natsai from this kind of fortress we find ourselves in here. This is also where I think the Thestral skin would be unlocked for those players who ordered the digital deluxe bonus, and on top of that, from the first Hogwarts reveal trailer released 2 years ago, we can actually see Natsai touching a Graphorn, which incidentally we've already seen back in our menagerie having a good time chilling out. And this makes sense as they were well sought after by poachers due to the magical properties their horns possessed, and bringing one back into our room of requirement for safety lines up with what they've said so far about saving magical creatures from poachers. So I could see Natsai's companion questline not just teaching us to ride the Hippogriff for aerial travel around the game, but also land travel with a Graphorn as a mount, because the official Hogwarts Legacy FAQs does say that we'll be able to tame and mount some magical beasts, meaning more than one. Now, final note on Natsai, by the way, because she's seen in the Hogsmeade storyline trailer, which is a separate cutscene entirely from the Highwing one. So to me, this reinforces the point home that they will most certainly appear in the main storyline questline, that being companions, regardless if you choose to do their optional side quests or not. Alright then, so we've got our provisional theory so far, which is Seb teaching us some dark magic spells, and Natsai is showing us how to ride a hippogriff and other magical creatures. So what about Poppy Sweeting of Hufflepuff? Well, she's described by Avalanche as being a bright and compassionate girl with an extensive knowledge of magical creatures and a particular aversion to poachers. And I think this is where we come across our Centaur questline in the Forbidden Forest, because we can hear this from one of the centaurs in the trailer.
What do you think you're doing here, humans?
And just before he says that, we catch a quick glimpse of Poppy and our character being surrounded by centaurs, almost mirroring a scene with Umbridge in the Order of the Phoenix. So I reckon we follow Poppy into the Forbidden Forest and beyond in an attempt to stop the poachers from hunting all the magical creatures in the game. And this is where we come across our centaur herd, centaurs being very famous for this skepticism and dislike of wizard kind, which I think is a great premise for a solid companion storyline here as we help these centaurs and build a strong relationship with them. And I think this is where we learn how to tame specific magical beasts and creatures thanks to Poppy's extensive knowledge of them, which will in turn benefit us throughout the game, and specifically so back in our menagerie in our room of requirement. And let's take the moon calves as an example. They only come out at a full moon and they're very shy creatures, but that said, their dung has magical properties, and when it's harvested before sunrise and subsequently added to plants as fertilizer, it makes them grow insanely fast. So perhaps just like Newt Scamander, we can create a burrow for them in our menagerie and harvest their dung, which can then be applied to our own plants we're growing in our own room of requirement, which can then be used to create potions that we can then use in combat. And wouldn't you know, if we zoom in on this clip here, there's a fertilizer machine which seems to be producing a consumable which we can presumably apply to our plants to speed up the growing process, as they all have a timer indicator on them, which adds up to this theory being pretty solid in my opinion, if I do say so myself, but we'll just have to wait and see. Interesting fact here though, by the way, Havelock Sweeting was a famous magi zoologist who was an expert on unicorns and could potentially be the ancestor of Poppy Sweeting here due to their surname and their affinity of magical creatures. Unicorns were also known to live in the Forbidden Forest, by the way, so perhaps we can see one here as an Easter egg in game. That would be awesome. Now, what about our Ravenclaw companion? Because at the time of this video, Hogwarts Legacy hasn't officially announced one yet, and I think that is for good reason, because whoever this person turns out to be, I think they will be instrumental in the storyline, even if their side quest is indeed optional. That said, we do see a Ravenclaw student in the Hogsmeade PlayStation pre-order trailer, but I think that's our avatar in the trailer itself and not the specific Ravenclaw character. But that also got me thinking about all the different passageways and secrets hidden in the game, because if Seb is teaching us dark magic, with Natsai teaching us how to fly, and Poppy teaching us how to tame unique magical creatures which we can benefit from in our room of requirement, could our fourth companion show us the super secrets in the castle or provide us with something which is reminiscent of the not yet created Marauders map? But that then got me doing some mental gymnastics, because sneaking around and causing mischief doesn't necessarily fall into the whole personality of Ravenclaws. But that said, Ravenclaws are known to have a curiosity of the world and pride themselves on practicing different types of magic other people would perhaps shun. And if we combine that with their high intelligence and original ideas, I wouldn't be surprised if they discover super secrets in the castle and beyond as a way to kind of scratch that itch and satisfy their own intellectual curiosity by pushing the limits of their own capabilities. Now, with all of these companion quests, I see them as add-ons as such in this game, and what I mean is that all four of these characters will appear during the main storyline, but as for their optional storyline quests, they don't need to be completed by you if you don't want to, but if you do, the developers have to reward us as the players in some way as a gameplay incentive for doing so. And I think that's where we pick up these extra additions in the game, such as dark magic, magical beast mounts, and taming unique creatures that produce special consumables for potions, as it adds to the already existing mechanics built into the game. So if you decide not to complete these storylines, you're not missing out on anything game-changing per se. But even though our companions will be teaching us some new spells in this game, they won't be teaching us all of them, as there's 20 already confirmed spells that you'll be able to cast. So click the video on your screen right now to find out what they all are and what they do, and I'll see you there in just a second. And if you're still watching, my big thanks to those of you who are in the Reloads Club and support me on YouTube via that membership. It really does help, so thank you very much. And Nika for helping me make this video. Butterbeer is definitely on her, and I'll see you in that next video.